Hello, guys. Hello, guys. All right. So, in yesterday's class, we were working on a photo manipulation for predator energy. All right. So, we are going to finish that up today. Um, there was a thought that came into my mind yesterday, and I was thinking of making the background black and white. I don't know. We're going to try this out. So, um, we're going to get into it now. So if that doesn't work, we'll continue with our original idea. Remember, I told you yesterday that design is all about trying new things. So when you're making designs, do not have a fixed mindset, have a growth mindset, which means your mind is open to new ideas and several things. So let's proceed. So I would go to image. Okay, hold on. I think let me make my mouse a little bit bigger so that we can see it very clearly. How do they do that thing now? Mouse pointer size. I'm going to just increase this a little so that we can really see the mouse. All right. So I want this to be in such a size that we can really see. So once we are done with that, we'll take it back to the original size. Okay, so now I believe you can see my mouse very well. So sometimes when it's in the viewport, should I call it viewport, you can, it's a bit small, or we might have to zoom in. So I'll select this layer, the background layer. I'll go to image adjustments. Then we would use, what do they call it now? Black and white. So we'll just select black and white. And then you can now see that if we use black and white, it's beginning to make sense in a certain way, because now we want to emphasize the um, predator, but then we'll come back to this. We'll come back to this. So I want us to create two versions, the colored version and the black and white version that emphasizes only the drink. All right, so what we would do now is try to balance the colors on this predator drink a little. So look for the drink layer. Hope it's not the locked one. So it actually is. So we can unlock it and go to image adjustments, then color balance. So we just want to add something to it to like make it match with the environment. Okay. So now, remember today we are supposed to deal with the highlights and shadows part. So if we zoom in, you can now see this is before color balance. The change is so it's not so obvious, so you might need to look carefully, because now one thing with designs is that you have to be able to detect slight color changes. Okay, so this is a very tiny color change, but it's very important. All right, so now we have to, I want us to define our light source. Okay, so we might have to make every other part of this image darker or blurry. All right, so I want us to add some monstera leaves in front and blur it to make it, to give it what they call depth of field. Okay, so that is what they call depth of field. So let's look for, let's go to PNG egg, and then we'll look for some monstera leaves. Monstera leaves. Okay, I don't think I got the spelling right. Monstera. Okay, let's just search Google. Monstera leaves. Okay, I think it's one R. Monstera leaves. Okay, so I don't think this has that name, so we'll just look for leaves and it's going to give us something similar. There is one that I really want us to use. So you can get it from Google. So this is the type I want us to use. I think let's go here. So I don't know why it's not coming up on PNG egg. So let's see. Yeah, this is the type of leaf I want us to use. So we are going to use this to create some depth of field, what they call depth of field. So we just have to look for one that really fits or that we can actually use. All right. I think this would work. I think this should work. Yeah, this should work. So we are going to download it. And then you can solve this by clicking the alphabets in the order that they are arranged up here. So that should help you download. And then once you've done that, if there is any other one that you think can work, I think let's also download this. We can do something with this one. So I think we've downloaded everything for now. So let's go back to Photoshop, and then we're just going to add that. Okay, so I'll go to the layer which I saved it, the folder rather. So just going to go here. All right, so now we might have to bring this in. Let's try this one first. So if you bring it in, and then you can try to reposition this. It has to be on top of all the layers. Okay, because now we are trying to use this to create a depth of field effect. So it's can reduce the size. So now we are going to blur it. But first of all, let's try to balance the colors and the brightness and make it really match. So you can go to image adjustments. Then you can go to curves and then use curves to like bring down the brightness a little. So you can click on OK and then go to image adjustments, then color balance. Let's use color balance. So you can add some green, then some yellows. Yeah, some more yellows, then maybe a little bit of red. Yeah, can drop the greens a little. Okay, so this should work. So this is before and this is after. This is before and after. So the next thing we are going to do is to blur it out. So let's go to filter, camera raw filter, and then we'll go to blur. No, not camera raw filter, please. We'll go to filter, then blur, then Gaussian blur, and then we'll use a blurriness of 10. 10 should work in this case. So you can duplicate it with Control J and then Control T to activate transform controls. You can bring it over here, right click and flip horizontal. So we have one facing the other side. And then you can do this, maybe scale this one a little more. So we can have one coming up like this. And then you hit OK. So now this now guides the viewer's eyes and makes it look like whatever is there is in focus. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is balancing lights. All right, so now there is sunlight on this thing, so it's supposed to reflect some shadows down here. So select this hand layer. Let's make sure to like lock it so that nothing affects it or we don't move it accidentally. So we'll create another layer and then right click and create clipping mask so that we restrict it to the bounds of the image underneath. So select the brush tool, can right click, increase your brush size, or you use the bracket keys on your keyboard. Ensure foreground color is black. And then you can just you can increase the hardness of your brush a little and then just try to like paint. You can just try to paint over it. Okay, so once you've done that, you can right click and reduce the hardness so that just in case you have to use it some other time. So this time we'll use the eraser tool. The eraser tool functions like the brush tool, but it basically does what it does. It erases things. So we want to make sure that our hardness is 0. So you just right click and ensure that the hardness is 0. Now with the same layer selected, you can just try to brush off the rough edges. So this is basically to soften the edges of the shadow. Okay, so if we do before and after, this is before and this is after. So you can see that it's beginning to make more sense. Okay, so you can refine that a little more. And now for the drink, we have to add a highlight that will show that it's reflecting light. So what we can do is to create an exposure layer. So we are going to use an exposure layer for this one. So you come down here, click and go to exposure. So this one would parent it or clip it to this drink. So you can just right click on the layer and do create clipping mask. There's a shortcut for that. There are two shortcuts where if you hold Alt on your keyboard and place your mouse in between both layers, you can actually do the clipping mask. The other shortcut is you do Alt Control G on the layer that you want to clip. All right, so back to our brush tool this time. We would increase our exposure to make it bright. Okay, so now select the layer mask for the exposure layer and invert it with Control I. And then you can select the brush tool. Make sure foreground color is white. And then you can just try to paint paint on some of those reflections. Okay, so you can decide to harden the brush. Make sure brush is at 100%. So right click hardness. You can increase the hardness of the brush and then try to soften it with eraser tool, just like I showed you guys. So these are just some tiny details that makes these things make sense. Okay, so you can still go back to the brush tool and then ensure it's a soft brush this time. And then you can just try to like increase this part. Okay, so something around here and to the edge. So if we do, this is before and this is after. So it's really showing off that reflection. So to some extent, I'm thinking that we might need some of that on the tigers, but for now, I don't think that is necessary. Okay, so once we've done that, let's add some vignettes. Let's try adding some highlights to these tigers. So I think we could still use exposure again, use exposure and clip it to the layer below. And then try to, with the brush tool selected, foreground color should be white. Or first of all, increase the exposure so you can see it. So increase the exposure, not too much though. And then invert the mask with Control I. So now, once you use the brush tool to paint white on the mask with the mask selected, so white is going to reveal the areas that have the effect. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to try to paint in some of those. Okay, so you can try to be as precise as possible. So if you make a mistake, let's say you mistakenly painted somewhere you're not supposed to paint, you can just change your foreground color to black and then you can restore those areas. So let's change it back to white. We are just trying to add some tiny details. So you scroll, you reduce your brush size and then try to paint it. So let's see if it's necessary for our design. If we do a before and after, I think it's necessary. So we're just going to leave that. So now let's make sure that the drink is actually in focus. So we are going to darken these other parts. Let's add some fake sun rays. So I'm going to create a new layer. And then I'm going to select the polygonal lasso tool. So you can right click on lasso tool and go to polygonal lasso tool. So I want us to simulate a fake sunlight. All right. So first of all, when you're doing things like this, you have to understand how light behaves. Okay. So first of all, we'll go from here because I want it to like focus more on the drink. So I guess it's going to stop around here. Because now let's say the drink is basically obstructing all the light that should come here. So we are going to select the paint bucket tool and paint that area with white. Or you can just come here. This is the paint bucket tool. Normally you would see the gradient tool there. That's what you see there. But because I used it yesterday, it's still as paint bucket tool. So you right click on the gradient tool, select paint bucket tool. Change your foreground color to white, or let's say something around yellow, something close, but it's not pure white, you get. So you can click OK. and then click in this area. You can do Control D to deselect, and then come back to your layer and change the blend mode to screen, right? Or even linear dodge. Linear dodge is too bright, so we'll go with screen. And then add some blur, so you can go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, so to like blur the edges and stuff. So now this is already giving us what we're trying to achieve. All right, so let's say 140, a radius of 140. All right, so now we are going to reduce the opacity to like 75%. So now if at any point you're confused, please make sure you ask questions. Maybe you can use the comment section or the group chat to ask some questions. All right. So now we can do a before and after. So now this just drives focus to the drink. But now I think the light is way too soft because I wanted the light to be a little bit harsh. So we can go to, I just used Ctrl Z to undo what we've just done. So let's go to filter, then blur, then Gaussian blur. So we can reduce this to like 60 so that we can have some outline. So let's just reduce the opacity to like, yeah, I think this should work. An opacity of 50% should do. Okay, let's make that 60. I'm trying to avoid using lots of shortcuts so that you would really understand what I'm trying to communicate. All right, so let's see linear dodge, or screen. We'll just go with screen blend mode. Okay, so now with all this that we've done, let's now add what they call a vignette around the image to emphasize focus. So we can create a new layer and then you can use your brush tool. Make sure foreground color is black, and then you can soften or reduce the opacity of your brush to like 50. Let's use 50%. Then right click, make sure your hardness is 0 so that it gives you a soft brush. So we can increase our brush size. Increase your brush size. You can use the bracket keys to increase your brush size. And then we're going to use the multiply blend mode. So you change this mode to multiply, and then you can just try to like paint over these areas. So it just darkens. So till around the light, so that it just darkens and puts that part in focus. So that's what we're trying to do. Okay. So now we'll reduce the opacity of this part to like 35 should work. So this is before and this is after. So it just emphasizes this, all right? So we can add our regular noise texture. Let me show you how to do that. I'm going to lock this light text, that light ray there. And I want to bring this down under, because now you can see that this dark area that we just painted, the vignette is covering the predator text, and we don't want that, so that the text is clearly visible. So every other thing on top that is not supposed to be there, we would leave it, we would take it below the predator layer. So that's what we are basically going to do. And then this predator logo or text, whatever, that is under, we'll bring it right above this darkness layer. Do you understand? So let's move that up so it stays here. Okay. So now what we can do is to add some noise textures to it. So let's say you have, maybe if you have any text that you can add down here, you can do that. But for now, I'm just going to use the dummy text. I'm going to select text tool and then probably draw a text box around here. So it's going to fill up with text automatically, but I want those texts to be small. So I'm going to reduce the font size. I'm going to reduce it to about 6. I think 6 should work. And I'm going to change the paragraph alignment to this justified centered, so that it's going to align it. Then change the font color to white so that it's visible. So if you have some stuff, some text that you can put down there, fine and good. So this is one style. So just a simple idea I had, if we could just use black and white. So I'm going to select the layer directly above this darkness layer, the vignette layer, and I'm going to add a black and white filter. So you select here, go to black and white. So now this tiger seems to be far above, so let's link it with its shadow and then still bring it under. Okay, and where in the world is, okay, so the black and white filter can come up here. So now it now emphasizes this as the only colored element. Do you get? Now let's say there is a purpose for this. If you're trying to advertise the drink and you want people to really focus on the drink, you have to use this strategy where everything is grayed out and then you have your drink as the only colored thing. It is a marketing strategy, because now design is not about how fine it looks, it's about strategy as well. So if I was going to make a promotional design for them, I'm going to use this compared to this. Now this has lots of colored elements that are competing for attention. So but once you do this, it shifts the attention straight to the drink. That's what it does. So this is much preferable. So I'm going to export two versions and everybody will tell me which one they prefer. So let's add a little noise texture. So you come down to here and add a new layer, or let's use a solid color instead. Let's use a solid color instead. So I'll delete this layer. So come to filters and then solid color. So we'll use 50% gray. So you can come to brightness and type 50% gray. And then we can go to filter, you'd see noise. You can add noise. So you can choose to rasterize this. And then if you zoom in, you can see some noise texture. So I want it to be monochromatic, that is black and white, so you can just click the monochromatic. You can, if you want more noise, you can increase the amount. So I don't want something too much. Just something under around 20. Something around 20 is fine. So you click OK. So all you have to do is change the blend mode to soft light or overlay or linear light. Linear light gives you the most noisy effect, but I'll just go with, okay, I think we really want the noise, so we'll just go for linear light, but then we'll reduce the opacity a little. Let's reduce the opacity to like 66. I think this is before. Now let's just use 50. 50 is much more balanced for the noise texture. So let me zoom in so that you can really see the noise texture. So this is without the noise, and this is with the noise. Okay? So now I'm going to export two versions. I'm going to export two versions. So this is file. We're going to go to export, quick export as PNG. So I'm going to add it to the design folder. So I'm going to name this as Predator Black and White. And then I'm going to turn off the black and white layer, and then I'll name it Predator Color. So I'll go to File, Export, quick export as PNG, and then I'll name this Predator Color. So now we have two designs. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to send this on the group so everybody would choose which one is much preferable, and then I'll also share the design resources on Telegram so that everybody can create their own. So it's an assignment. So I want to see your own design. Now, you don't have to do exactly what I did. Okay? You don't have to do exactly what I did. You can create your own, use a different background, maybe use a different concept or a different animal. Do you understand? So I just need you to create something for yourself. Okay? Is that all right? So yeah, well, I think something might be a little bit off with this energy thing. So I think it's getting entangled with something. Okay. Okay, so I think I'm trying to figure out where the issue seems to be coming from. So it might take a while because I think this exposure thing might be affecting it in a certain way. So let me try to move that upwards and see if there's something wrong. Oh, so now I see. Okay, why is it doing that? Let me check the color overlay settings. It's also in normal. So where is the problem coming from? Oh, okay. Oh, now I see. This shadow layer that is on top this one seems to be affecting it. So I'm just going to like clip it to the drink layer. So it was really playing a prank on the design. Okay. Okay. So I'm just trying to make some adjustments to this thing because it's getting entangled with something that it shouldn't be entangled with. So, and that should be the hand statue. So it's supposed to be under it. Okay. So if it's under, yeah, now it works. Okay, so this seems to be a much better version. So I'm going to re-export. So I'm going to export both the colored and the black and white. And then we will proceed. So we'll have another class tomorrow, but that won't be on YouTube here. It will be on Google Meet. So in that class, we'll basically talk about how we are going to get clients if you're a designer, how you get clients as a designer, because this is the question for a lot of upcoming designers. How do they get clients and stuff like that? So we're going to talk about that in tomorrow's class. So thank you for joining today's class. The resources will be on the Telegram group. Make sure to download it and practice with your phone or your laptop. Even if you design with Pixel Lab, you can still try something out, or you can even use Photop. So thank you for joining.